Oh, too funny. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Monday Men. I am your host, David Browning. No, truly, I am David Browning, and I am interviewing this week none other than David Browning. Welcome to the show, David.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
I think a little explanation is due at this point. You have this mad, crazy, pink-hatted dude on your show, and you're sitting there, and we're both supposedly named David Browning. I'll let you explain the madness here.
Well, we are both named David Browning, and in fact, we have never met in person. But I think we met through, there is a Facebook group called Join If Your Name is David Browning. There are
That's
David
right.
Brownings all over the world. Who knew? But that David Browning.
Oh, this is going to be too much fun. I can tell already.
I mean,
that David Browning.
Yeah, the other one is he's also in music. He is in Nashville, and he is a songwriter and producer. And so I thought it would be tremendous fun if we reversed roles and did this. And, we've always, appealed to each other because of our humor.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, there's a beautiful sarcasm that always accompanies creative people. And I think you and I have fit those roles, and we're so similar in so many ways. We should give like a fair warning to those watching in advance. This may get completely out of hand. It may dive deep into emotions because we are so creative, but we are going to stick to knitting as much as possible.
Crocheting.
There we go.
And my cheeks are already hurting though because I'm laughing so much.
That's great. That's great. Do we have any sponsorships this week or anything like that?
No, but I would welcome sponsorships.
There you go. There you go. Sponsorships or fresh, crisp $100 bills sent to David Browning. Not me, David Browning, other David Browning. That would suffice as well. So.
Well, if I get $100 bills, I might
non-sequential, yes.
Yeah. I might share them with you, or I might just use them to come and visit you.
I would love that.
I actually have a number of friends in Nashville, so it would be lovely to come and see you.
Fantastic. It'd be fantastic. Well, before we get too far off, I want you to explain to me, a lot of your guests are knitting, crocheting, different things like that. And forgive my ignorance. This is where I want to learn along the way. But I also come from, a farm in Missouri where aunts and grandmothers and all that were, even my mom, making my clothing growing up, clothes for their family members or quilts or things like that. So it's not that I'm completely foreign to the art form. It's just that I don't know the vernacular very well. So I would love for you to explain to me first exactly what it is you're doing so that a lay person can understand it.
Okay. Well, most people are familiar with knitting. That's done with 2 needles. This is my little gesture for 2 needles here.
That's right. That's right.
Crochet is done with a single hook.
Right.
And basically it's like interlocking knots.
Right. Okay.
And you create a fabric from that. Do you remember macrame from the 70s?
Very much so. Yes, my mother did that. Yes.
So it's a little, it's not completely, but a little bit like that.
Okay.
So you just create a fabric. Oh, excuse me. Oh,
You're bored of it already.
no, I just had a nap. Actually, I had a mid-morning nap, and
That's
my
awesome.
phone told me it's time to get up, you stupid thing. And I have my phone programmed to say that actually.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
But that's why I'm yawning.
So
Um,
you are strictly crochet then?
yes, knitting is a mystery to me, and I'm okay
Sure.
with that because there's still so much more to learn with crochet.
Right.
I
Right.
I have lots and lots of friends who do both. I have
Right.
friends who only knit. Um,
Okay.
that's okay. My ex knits and
Okay.
is an expert, and we used to say that we were a bistitchual household.
Well played. That's a good one. I love that.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
like a perfect dad joke for this show. That's good. That's
Um,
good.
oh my god. When I did my Topic Tuesday this week, it was all about because every like 6 or 8 weeks I do dad only dad jokes,
Oh
and
God.
every single one of them that I did this week fell flat.
Oh no.
I
Oh no.
mean,
Well, you're
I
one
mean,
for one
even
today. That
worse
was a
than
good one.
dad jokes are supposed to do.
Usually, a typical eye roll or eyebrow raise is adequate
Yeah.
when they start doing, shaking the head. Yeah, it's over.
Oh,
So,
just shut
oh,
up and get on with it.
that is awesome. Well, that's great. Well, I'm curious to know what got you into crocheting. What was the allure, and how long ago? And when did you get started?
Well, I've told this story before. I first
Okay.
learned at my grandmother's elbow, and I think it was probably I might have been like 10 years old.
Okay.
Um, and she was visiting us one year at Thanksgiving or Christmas because we were at that time, my family's in North Carolina, but
Okay.
at that time we were living in Minnesota. So
Ooh.
she had come to visit us. For a week or two or longer, I don't remember. But just to hang out with her, my sister
Mhm.
and I were both hanging at her elbow. Now, my sister's a year older than I am.
Okay.
Um, and so she showed us how to crochet. So that's how I
Mm.
learned just a few stitches,
Sure.
just a little bit. And I didn't stick with it at that time. But then um, when I was with my ex, um, I one year for Christmas, I got him a beginner's knitting kit.
Mhm.
The instructions in that kit he found not very good at all, but he very quickly found beginners lessons on YouTube. And
Mhm.
then also very, very soon became quite an expert. And I had the best time. We were living in the suburbs of New York. And I
Mhm.
had the best time if we were like going into the city for something. He would pull out his knitting. I had the best time watching people watch him
I
knit.
bet. I bet. That's
And
amazing.
then it was his suggestion that I pick up the hook again.
Nice.
And so I did, and I think it was 2016 when I did, and that was well timed because 2016 that was a year when I was very sick. And
Mm.
so it was good for me to have projects.
Right. Right.
And then since then, I have learned so much, so very much.
That's amazing.
And so right now, I'm not too bad at the skill of crochet.
I love it. I love it. So the sweater that you're wearing,
The
you
one I'm
crocheted,
wearing,
I'm
yes.
presuming? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, regular viewers have seen this sweater far too many times, but,
That's amazing.
this is also a pattern that I have available on Ravelry.
Okay. Okay, very
Um,
good. And this comes to my next question because um, you and I have discussed in the past that this is an art form. It's not just functional. It serves that purpose, but everybody kind of has their mark or their style. And obviously, you have a very distinct pattern in this one. Do you find yourself, much as I would in songwriting, doing I love alliteration, so I'll do certain things, or in a verse two I always have a certain way I refer back before a chorus. Do you find certain stitches that you try to include or leave your mark on your works, that kind of the way Picasso would on his paintings? Do you find that there are certain stitches that are, this is David Browning because of this?
I hadn't thought about that before. I'm not sure that there are certain stitches or sequences of stitches that spell David Browning. There
Well,
are
it's time for that then.
some that that I would avoid. Um, Sometimes, like you will see an entire panel of a sweater or something that is nothing but double crochet,
Okay.
which is a pretty boring stitch.
Okay.
Very useful, but also very boring if you do an entire panel of it. So
Okay.
if I were going to do an entire panel, I would do something else. There are variations of double crochet, there are variations of half double crochet that I might do. Or that's when things like the cables like you see on the sweater
Right.
would become very handy. And I love to do crochet cables. I think that I don't know knitting, but I think that the crochet cables are easier than knitting cables. Um, and I've done some tutorials with cables.
Okay. Very cool.
And I've got another one that I've tried to do, but every time I try to record it, I run into some sort of technical issue. So I keep I oof.
That's the way it always is. You want to show and make a good showing, and
Yeah.
something always goes wrong. Totally get that. Get that. So let me ask you also, yarns and colors. Obviously, what you're wearing is kind of very downplayed. Do you use bright, vibrant colors at times? What's your mindset in the materials you're using?
Well, I love this yarn. The yarn that I
Hmm.
made this sweater from, actually, the yarn was a gift
Okay.
from one of my favorite viewers, really. Um, I have, I have, I don't know, created is the word, but there has developed a wonderful community of people who um, watch my videos and whose videos I watch. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's
And
twice now, man. That's twice. It's on
it
record.
won't be the last one, I promise you. But but so I think I think I might have had this yarn on like my Amazon wish list or something. And so my friend sent me some of this yarn. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, what can I do with this yarn that would be worthy of this yarn?" Because it's nice yarn and it's not cheap stuff
Right, right.
either.
Absolutely.
Normally, what I go for, I love color.
Okay.
Um, but in this case, with this yarn, um, this was the perfect application. I'm in the middle of another project using what is left of the yarn that came with this and some other yarn,
Nice.
and it's going to be very basic in color, very earthy,
Right.
but it won't be boring at all.
Nice. That's great. So let me ask you, obviously you have this beautiful sweater. What are Do you have go-to pieces that are like, I love hats. I love doing scarves. I love doing mittens. Is there a specific uh, you know, clothing that you love doing more than others?
I'm beginning to see that it's a seasonal thing.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, and I I think that I'm either 6 months behind or a year ahead because, um, now that we're toward the end of winter, I've got, like, 4 sweaters going,
Wow.
but, um, when it's not winter, I always have shawls going,
Okay.
and I love to do shawls. Shawls can be worn at any time of year.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. So
Um
you just jogged another question with four different sweaters going.
Mhm.
Is your personality type one that likes to be in the middle of different, works, or do you like to start one, finish it, start another, finish it? What would be your typical go-to?
I'm not sure the answer to that question is the same every day
Yeah,
because,
sure, sure.
um, I would have said a few months ago, I would have said, "I hate to have works in progress or
Right.
WIPs."
Hmm.
Um, uh, I have people talk about having a WIP mountain or Mount Whitmore or the Whippalachians. Um, um, but normally I'll only have a few things going on. And I might have a few unfinished objects, UFOs,
Hmm.
things that I haven't touched in a very, very long time. But what I've been doing with those lately has been just sending them out to people and saying, take it, finish it, do with it what you want. Just send me pictures.
How
Um,
cool. That's amazing. That's a great idea.
but more recently, I've had I've been saying February. Let me say February, historically speaking, is a very bad month for me.
Okay.
So, uh, in the past week or two, I'm saying spring has come early because I've
Mm.
had a bunch of new creative ideas.
Good, good.
And so and at the same time, I still had other creative ideas I was still working on. So, um, I get started on this, and then I get started on that, and then, you know, and then I have a few others in my notebook that I haven't started yet, but I have a
Yes.
notebook of things that I wanna do still.
That is
Um
fantastic. That you kn and that's so similar, again, we're talking about creativity and our lifestyles. You with crocheting, me with songwriting. It's that notepad full of song titles or hook lines or whatever it is.
Mhm.
This is where creativity crosses all boundaries as far as the common aspects. And it's so funny to think that people who are like, oh my gosh, crocheting is so different than this, that, and the other. It really isn't. There's the common bond. It's just the medium is the only difference between the creative aspects, and I find that fascinating. I find that we probably all have a whole lot more in common than we do differences, and so often we look at our differences to alienate us. So sorry to be philosophical for a moment, but
Oh, please
I,
continue.
I find it invigorating to meet other creative people in other mediums to understand their mindsets, and it's fun to hear your process. With that in mind, do you have a bucket list of items that you wish to create? Let's say it's your last day on Earth. Here's one item, or three items, or 10 items, or how I want my crochet to be left as a legacy for those to follow, to for those to look at and be like, my gosh, this is brilliant. What are some of those bucket list uh, desires with your crocheting and your artwork?
Okay, two things come to mind. One, I started to create a collection of patterns, both knit and crochet, from a whole bunch of designers that was going to be published as to benefit a hunger organization.
Nice, nice. I love that.
Second, I want at least one collection of my own patterns as one collection,
I love it.
whether it's just all shawls, all sweaters, or just whatever the hell you can put together.
Right. Absolutely. That's fantastic. I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness. So name me three people, and this may be tough, but name three people that you admire either as knitters or crocheters who are like, oh my gosh, this person does it for me in their creativity, what they're making, the colors they use, the different patterns they come up with, that you would be like, if I could do what they are doing, I would feel completely fulfilled.
Okay, I will name you three, at least three people I have learned the most from.
Sure.
Okay, one is Crystal, who is known as Bagaudet Crochet.
Okay.
She is brilliant as a YouTube presence. She is brilliant as a crochet teacher. She does amazing things. She has done roughly 5 gazillion patterns, and that's probably a conservative estimate. Um, and not only that, she is so supportive of those of us who are still building our YouTube audiences,
Good.
our crochet worlds. In fact, when I was first monetized on YouTube, she was the first person to give me a super chat.
I
And
love
I'm
that.
gonna start crying in a minute. Um, Another one is Fiber Spider.
Okay.
That's the name of his channel. His real name is Craig. He is also a brilliant teacher, does great work,
Mhm.
so lovely as a person.
Oh,
I cannot tell you. Um, we He has been on my channel actually,
nice.
and well, actually, so is Crystal. Um, and He is just just a wonderful, wonderful person. And I've learned tremendous amounts from him. When I was first starting out, I think before I found Crystal or Fiber Spider, Mikey from the Crochet Crowd, I learned a whole bunch watching him. I'm sure he doesn't even know I'm alive, but um, but I learned a lot from him. And there are other YouTubers I admire greatly. There's one called The Secret Yarnery. Her name is Krista,
Mhm.
and she does. I've learned a lot
Mhm.
from her, and she does. She has a really fun channel. Who else? Oh my gosh, where could I start? Or where where should I end? I mean, there are so many people. I think the thing is that we all learn from each other. We all want to
Right.
learn from each other.
Right.
Um, whereas there are things that I understand or that come more easily to me that I try to share in a way that will make it easier to other people. And then there are
Sure.
things that other people share. There's another one, TL Yarn Crafts. Her name is Tony something.
Okay.
Um, she does an awful lot of Tunisian crochet, which is a very specific
Wow.
um, technique.
Mhm.
Um, and I've learned, I think, everything I know about Tunisian from her. But now I
Awesome.
have a couple of different Tunisian patterns out there.
Nice.
Um, Lots of people. I have met so many amazing people just doing this series of Monday Men.
Yes.
I mean, uh, uh, I told you this was a dangerous question because I just can't. I can't stop when we start
Well,
talking about people who are inspiring,
I love
people
that.
I've learned from, people who are just wonderful with what they do.
Absolutely. Well, and that leads to my next question. Back generations before us, crocheting and knitting was more it was an everyday use. It was function. It was survival. And now today, what I call the drive-through mentality, where everything has to be instantaneous. And if I need a new shirt, I run up the street, I buy a pack of new shirts, I'm out the door. Whereas crocheting and knitting takes time and all that. Now with a YouTube presence and all that, do you see the art of knitting and crocheting being a lost art form or a resurgence of it, a renaissance time? Where do you see this art form as it currently stands?
I think, particularly in the past couple of years, we're seeing, since people have been stuck at home a lot, we're seeing a
Ah, yes.
resurgence of crafts that you can do at home. But
Right,
even
right.
before that, I would say that yarn crafts in fashion were coming back. But
Mhm.
that is something that comes and goes. It ebbs and wanes,
Mhm.
and I think it always will.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, as far as the functional aspect, I mean, there's a long history with both knitting and crocheting,
Mhm.
where if you look at it, there are so many families who survived the Irish potato blight famine
Mhm.
because they could make lace.
Right, right.
Otherwise, they would have starved.
Mhm.
You know, there are, there, uh, if you're familiar with Charles Dickens,
Hmm.
Madame Defarge was always
Hmm.
knitting something, and it was always red. And red is always about blood.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know,
That's exactly right.
um, so it. I think I saw something recently that showed um, a surviving bit of textile from, I don't know, prehistoric times
Wow.
that looked like it resembled modern day crochet.
Amazing. Amazing.
So, I mean, it's been around for ages. I mean, the
It has.
functional aspect has always been there.
It
So,
has.
whether it's an art form, whether it's a necessity, it's always been there. I mean,
Right.
you also think about soldiers in the
That's right.
world wars.
Yeah.
They were encouraged to knit their own socks.
Isn't that amazing? Necessity being the mother of invention for those times, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
just mind blowing. I think my biggest concern with society in general, which would apply here, is that we are so fast paced, we don't take time to breathe or to slow down. And obviously crocheting is a very time labor intensive art. You know, you're not going to crochet a beautiful sweater in a matter of 30 minutes, and most of the mentalities of society today are like, it's got to be instantaneous, you know. So to me, there's something beautiful and magical about the process of slowing down and belaboring a work and being able to look at it at the end and say, I created this and it took time, and for perfection, you know, it was worth the hours, the days, the weeks that were put into this. And I think that's me waxing poetic, but I do believe as society we're doing a disservice to ourselves with the instantaneous mentalities. And so I can see crocheting, knitting being helpful in that respect. You know, having generations of kids coming up who are like, why can't we fast forward through commercials? And it's like, hey, we grew up when you had to be at your TV at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, or you miss it all. You know, so
You had
it's
to get
it's a
up and
different
walk
mindset.
across the room to switch the channel.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
But
The remote
uh,
control back then was your 7-year-old kid who went over and did it for you. But it's
but
true.
actually that is part of the benefit to the artist and the recipient, is that you have to slow down. You have to stop. I have spoken to a whole lot of people who have found that working with yarn, knitting or crocheting, or any other form that they're doing, um, they've found it tremendously healing. I've
Yes.
spoken to combat veterans
Mm,
who use crochet as a way to deal with PTSD.
that's
And
beautiful.
then not only that, they gain immensely from sharing what they learn
Right.
with other people
Right.
who have the same issues. So, I
Mhm.
mean, there's that, and you know, as far as this instant society goes, yeah, I have a saying, you know, if you can find it cheaper at the mall, then go to the mall. You
That is
know,
true. That's so true. You know, but and this goes back, you know, obviously being a music producer and things like that, we're dealing with the instantaneous, and I call it disposable, you know. And
hmm
I would say the same in your art form as well, is that, you know, things that are great take time. Things that take time have had a lot of thought and effort put into them, and thus should be valued in that manner. So if something you create costs $500 or $1,000 or whatever that price point is for the time, the energies, the efforts, the amount of love that you put into it, it really can almost be priceless in that respect. Whereas if somebody gives me a cool new shirt, awesome, great. If somebody gives me a hand knitted or crocheted scarf or hat, I'm speechless because I know how much time and effort and thought was taken into that. It wasn't just something they went and bought. And so again, me waxing poetic, but I do find that uh, just the labor involved, it's an art form. It really is. It's, to me, it's like fine art that you hang on the wall. It just happens to be done on your lap with yarn and with needles or crochet hooks, and it's just fantastic. It's another beautiful art form.
I agree completely.
Okay, I want to
Completely.
get into a couple of fun questions with you here. So
Uh-oh.
what, oh, nothing terrible. What is your least favorite yarn or string or thread? Forgive my vernacular again. What is your least favorite? Like somebody puts on a sweater and they're like, it's itchy and all that stuff. What's your least favorite uh, you know, substance to work with?
Okay, now most people would say acrylic yarns, but
Acrylic yarn. And what
with
is
with
that?
uh well, acrylic basically is plastic,
Okay, synthetic. Yeah.
but there is such a wide variety out there now. You can find some really nice acrylic yarns, and
Okay.
then you can find yarns that I would say give acrylic a bad name.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's the ones that give acrylic a bad name that I don't ever want to work with again.
I
And
shall not mention their
I
name.
think
Yeah.
it's well, honestly, it's probably not an accident that I can't really remember any of the brand names right now
That's good.
that
That's
that I
good.
don't want to work with again. But there are some very nice acrylics out there. Premier
Okay.
Yarns has they have some very nice acrylics. By the way, I have an affiliate link for Premier Yarns. Um, Lion Brand Yarns, Pound of Love, it has always been one of my favorite yarns.
Okay.
Um, the Yeah, Lion Brand Mandala, which is mandala. It comes in a cake form as opposed to a skein, and it's usually a self-striping yarn. So you'd go
Nice.
a number of yards in one color, and then a number of yards in another color,
Very
and
cool. Very cool.
that's always been one of my favorites too,
Okay.
and it's also it's got a nice touch to it. I have worked with some 100% wool yarns
Mhm.
um, that were scratchy and some that were not.
Okay.
So
Good.
um, I, I I'm open-minded pretty
Okay.
much. It depends upon the project. It depends upon the yarn itself, the color, because as I say, I love color.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I'm,
cool. I love it. I love it.
yeah. I mean, aside from those that I wouldn't want to, I've gotten to the point where I will not order yarn online if I have not touched it.
Right.
If
Right.
I do
That's
not
a great point.
know the yarn,
Yeah.
um, then I will not order it because I
I
won't
Yeah.
do like a mystery bag
Right.
or that sort of thing where you can get
Sure.
like 40,000 yards for
Right.
$12.
Right.
Um, but it's all stuff that you don't want to work with.
No,
So
there's a reason why they're selling it that way.
exactly.
That makes sense. Now, do you have a local store that you just love to go into and be able to get your hands on it or see new products or anything like that? Or are you more, hey, I have some tried and true online places that I go to?
Um, okay. Um, as far as um, everybody loves local yarn shops, the
Hmm.
LYS thing.
Yep.
Uh, they tend to have more of the hand dyed stuff, the boutique stuff, the expensive stuff.
The expensive stuff. That's right. That's right.
But the primary chains, the Michaels, the
Hmm.
Joannes, the Hobby
Hmm.
Lobby, we have all three here in Wilmington.
Okay, good.
Um, I try to stay out of all of them, or if
Oh, really?
because I spend money when I go inside them.
There it goes. See
Yeah.
ya.
So um, even Dollar Tree now has yarn, and it's not.
Wow.
It's nice yarn. It's
Wow.
okay. I have some right here from Dollar
Nice.
Tree. I mean, eh,
Amazing.
it's small skeins, and if you work it out, it's this is supposed to be like 120 yards for $1.25.
Which is half a sock. Is that what it is?
I could make a hat out of this.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Um,
I love that.
but if you work it out in terms of, if you extrapolate, if you will, um, in terms of yardage, that's like 1,200 yards for 15 bucks.
Okay. Okay.
Um, a Lion Brand Pound of Love skein is between 1,000 and 1,100 yards. The price has gone up. It used to be about 10 bucks. Now it's 12 or
Okay.
something.
Okay.
So, in terms of economy, it's pretty much the same price.
Right.
It's pretty much the same quality.
Hmm.
It's and it's just as nice to work with.
Right. Right.
So there you
I
go.
love it. I love it. Okay. Another fun question.
Okay.
What is the absolute worst thing you've ever created, whether you got in the middle of it or at the end of it and you started using all your four-letter words? It's like, I've spent all this time on this and it didn't work and it sucks and blah 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 blah. What was that piece that just drove you to drink after you finished it or got in the middle and realized it wasn't happening?
Well, first, it doesn't take much to drive me to drink.
We could talk about wines then.
Wine,
Oh, that's awesome.
amateur.
Oh.
Um, I um, I have attempted a few sweaters that I have wound up just completely unraveling and reusing the yarn for something else.
Wow.
And um, and actually sometimes the things that I made the second time around or even the third time around with the same yarn
Mhm.
uh, were much better. But
Okay.
also, it doesn't take that much to drive me to use four-letter words either. But it's if you look at it in the right way, or in I don't know, I try to refrain from binary thinking right wrong. You know,
Sure,
if you
sure.
look at it in a more constructive way, then it's all a learning
It
experience.
is. That's a great way to look at it. That's right. That's
Um,
right.
I can't say that I am always in that mentality.
It depends on how much drinking has taken place, I presume. So,
I can't say that that is not true. But you know, in the end, it's all about creating something. And
right.
honestly, I talked to a lovely gentleman I met at a yarn retreat, who is actually he is considered a master knitter
Wow.
in whatever kind of guild there is in that world. He is qualified as a master and a teacher, but he actually just opened an exhibit at a museum in Atlanta with knit sculptures.
Wow. Oh my
It is
heavens.
just amazing. In fact, uh, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I reran um, the interview that I did with him, and I included a link to the exhibit. But anyway, so what he said to me was that there is a big difference between handmade and homemade.
Wow. That's a great saying. That makes a lot of sense.
And, you know, one of the things that I come back to when I do my Topic Tuesdays is what is your tolerance level?
Mm,
Or where do you draw the line?
mhm.
At what point do you say, meh, it's good enough?
Right, right,
And he said that there is no point where you say, meh, it's good enough. It
right.
has to be perfect every time. I have
That's
not
amazing.
reached that level of
Nor have
perfection
I.
yet, but I would like to. I think it's a
Right.
great goal. I think having goals is I think having goals is better than reaching goals.
I would agree. I would agree. You're always aspiring. Yep, indeed. And you bring up another really good point that would happen in both of our art mediums here is the
Media.
relation of
I have to
art.
say media. One
Okay,
medium, two media. I'm
there you
sorry
go.
for
See, I
saying
learned
that.
something new. I'm so sorry, but now I've learned. That's good.
No,
So
no,
in
I mean, that's totally obnoxious of me to say, but I
it's
can't
all good.
resist.
It's all good, man. I love it. I love it. So in our medias, uh
Media.
the me man, I love it. This is great. Okay, in what you do and in what I do, there is this very careful balancing act of art versus commerce. And I think what he was speaking of, where, you know, if it's not quite good enough, it's not done yet. It has to be perfect. Have you ever found yourself, you just said, "Hey, I haven't reached that level or that thought process yet." And I don't know if you've had any of your works for sale yet, but do you find, as I do in my end of work, there comes a point where time equals money, and where do you draw the line? And when is good enough good enough,
Well, for one thing, I don't create for production or for
Okay.
sale.
Hmm.
I create to create.
Okay.
I sell patterns. I don't sell
Okay.
output.
Right. Right.
Uh, and by the way, Daddy needs more pattern sales. Um, but I That's one thing.
Yeah.
Um, Usually, once I've done something, this sweater is never going to leave my hands.
Right. Right.
I have a few other sweaters that are never going to leave my hands. I have some shawls that will either be gifts or donations. I
Right.
have
Right.
a lot of just about everything that I do is either going to stay in my wardrobe
Mhm.
or be a gift or donation
Amazing.
after I have had enough photos uh, for whatever patterns I'm going to do
Right.
with it.
Right.
Um, but on the other hand, when I have tried to do it for production, excuse me a second, and when I have, and I know people who are very successful who do it for production and for sale. Every every one of them works very hard to make it as flawless as
Right.
possible.
Hmm.
I don't. Perfection is a goal.
Hmm.
It might not always be attainable,
Hmm.
but to have as few flaws as possible is a much more attainable goal.
Right. Right.
Um, and you know, to get to the point where you never say, "Oh, look at that. No one's going to notice."
Hmm.
You know, or where you say, "Oh, that looks great. Everything looks consistent. Everything looks, even. Everything is looks beautiful." Yeah, there's a difference. But
Right.
at the same
Absolutely.
time, if you get something that looks completely perfect, um, if you want that, go to the Gap. You know,
Right. That's
you can
right.
find something that was made by a machine in Taiwan
Hmm.
that is
Hmm.
going to probably look just as perfect, maybe.
Right. Right.
Um, Although they have knitting machines, they don't have crochet machines yet because crochet is a little more complex, actually.
Sure, sure. And you bring up a very good point in that there's a fine line between something that has flaws and something that has character. And I had this discussion with someone last night pertaining to music because with the advent of digital recording and all that, everything can be perfect, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is correct. It just means that all of a sudden any little nuances or characters might be disposed of, and all of a sudden you have a very generic sounding song. And I can imagine that the same way with crocheting, there may be something that, if somebody was looking for perfection, with the eagle eye, all of a sudden it's like, no, here's one thing that you're looking as a flaw, but it's actually great character for what I've made here. I would imagine that's very much the case in your media or medium, medium. Molly, by the end of this interview, I'm going to know the difference between medium and media. I'm going to write my old English teacher and explain to her what I learned today. She'll be so tickled. So, but I do believe that there are when you can notice a flaw, it's a flaw. When there's something that is character, it adds to it becomes an accent to the piece. Correct?
That is entirely possible.
Okay. Good. Good. I love it.
It's not
All right.
always the way it works, but it is. entirely possible. My ex used to say that, well, he would use the whole, you know, Asian backroom knitting machine metaphor, but he would
Right.
also say that if you make a mistake, it's like a character,
Right.
a sign of character or something like that. But
Right.
that's how
Right.
you can tell that it's handmade.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of totally off subject, the first two sweatshops I ever saw in New York City was one in Queens around 42nd Avenue going to a friend's house. They had the door open and there were tons of people in sewing. The other one was next to a real estate agency. I forget, down in the 20 somethings downtown New York. And it was for Donna Karen of all people. And it was the craziest thing I ever saw. So totally off subject, but thought I'd throw it in because it had to do with sewing and fabrics and all that. Interesting.
When I
Anyway,
first moved to New York in 1991, I stayed with a friend who, at that time, she was an office temp. And at that time, she was working in the offices of Donna Karen. She walked
wow.
away with so much high fashion stuff.
I can't even
You,
imagine, man. It's
oh
unreal.
my God. And she was a beautiful girl to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah.
But in those beautiful clothes, it was amazing.
That's awesome. So with that in mind, you actually led perfectly into my next question. Give me one or two or three people that you would love to dress with your creations. Movie stars, music artists, philanthropists, just anybody that you would be like, if they would wear my creations, I would just, life would be complete.
Actually, one of them happened a few months ago.
Really?
I There is a wonderful, amazing, amazing soprano named Lisette Oropeza,
Okay.
and I sent her something that I had made. A few years
Wow.
ago, I had done an interview with her for
Okay.
a profile for my blog, my opera blog, Tamino File.
Right.
Um, and she was so nice
Love
and
it.
so just lovely. And so we remained in contact, and so I sent her that thing. It was not my own pattern; it was somebody else's pattern. I think
Right.
it was actually before I started publishing my own patterns. But I made this. It was sort of a lattice work kind of T-shirt thing that you would wear over a T-shirt or over a
Nice.
collared shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
She posted a picture of her wearing it on her public media, on her social media.
Oh, wow. Wait, media or media? No, no joking. That's fantastic. Were
And
you
you
just
know what?
beside yourself?
I certainly was. There were two of me here, but one of me is enough, believe me. But I I don't know that I gained anything materially from it, but I was so thrilled to see it. And
Fashion.
she
Yeah.
uh, has always just been so lovely to me.
Mm.
And she continues to be just amazing. And she is such a rising star in the opera world.
Good.
Anyway,
Wow.
other people I would love to see. I mean, nowadays you see a lot more people wearing knit and crochet wear
Right.
in public. Um, there is, the people talk about that Harry Styles sweater. There,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've seen people uh, recreate it with their own patterns, and I'm going, no, I would have done that a little differently. No, 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 no. Okay, yeah, I would do that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but I'd like to see you in something that I make.
Hey, let me tell you, I would be tickled. That would be amazing. That would be great. And I'd be
Um,
incredibly humbled by that.
I have another opera friend, um, and I have a really, really colorful scarf. He's in Northern Europe, so he needs it. Although by the time he
Mhm.
gets to him, he won't need it any longer. I sent it out, actually. I sent it out a few months ago, but it came back to me apparently
No.
because
Oh,
I did not have sufficient information on the customs form. I mean, what do you need to say? It's a scarf.
oh, yes, but what kind of scarf and how much does it weigh and predict the value and all that
So
fun stuff.
I don't know. So the returned package has been sitting there for a while, and
Right,
so I
right.
still need to send it to him, and I would love to see him because I think it would be great for him with the
Mhm.
colors.
Amazing.
Who else would I love to see dressed in myself? I know people who actually have have gained tremendously in their terms of sales from having their stuff worn by celebrities.
Right,
Um,
right.
so oh gosh, who else? My mind's a blank right now,
Well,
which
that's
is my
something you
normal
gotta.
state, actually.
You'll have to think on that and make a bucket list of like people who would adore your work and want to wear it,
You know
you know?
what? Tom Daly,
Okay.
the British diver, who is
Hmm.
known for his own knit and crochet stuff. So I
Nice.
honestly, I approached him, asking him to come onto my channel.
Nice.
Uh, he's a little busy,
Sure.
so that is why I that is my assumption as to why I have not heard back.
Right. No, that's fair. That's
Because
fair.
he has a busy life, but imagine having him. He doesn't need to wear anything that I. He doesn't need to wear anything. Period.
He doesn't need to wear anything. There you go. It's out in the open. There it is. No, I'm just
I hope so. But
kidding. We did so well for so long, and in the last, few minutes,
but yeah,
oh, that's funny.
if I'd be okay, if he ever like returned uh that thing. Other people, you know, just today I actually the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate
Wow.
Middleton, if
Yeah.
I mean, she has worn, knit sweaters and things before, but
Right.
you know how fabulous she looks when she
Yeah.
wears bright colors.
She really has this kind of modern Jackie O thing kind of going, you know.
Exactly,
It's really
exactly.
impressive. Yeah.
So I basically I it was like a contact form on the Duke and
Mhm.
Duchess of Cambridge website thing.
Right.
I
Right.
basically said that I think it would be great for the UK yarn industry if she were to
Absolutely.
wear things uh, that were made by
Mhm.
with yarns from UK yarn dyers.
Absolutely.
There are some
Absolutely.
brilliant yarn dyers there. There are some brilliant yarn dyers here too,
Sure.
but
Sure.
if she were to do that with some UK yarn designers, I mean, can you see her in a beautiful? Do I still have it? Okay, this is a little muted for her. I've shown this many times, but
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Yeah.
that's a little muted for her.
Amazing.
but that kind of color in a
Gorgeous.
shawl,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
around her shoulders, or a beret, or
Yes. Yes.
something clever like that. A summer shawl in like a cotton yarn.
Right.
Um,
Right.
that would be amazing for
Yes.
the UK yarn industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
So,
fantastic.
and and it was just today that I wrote to make that suggestion. I don't expect to hear back, but
You never know. It always plants a seed, and
you know what else? I wrote to Kamala Harris because
nice.
I
There you
know
go.
that she crochets.
Right. Right. That's very cool.
Um, because I wanted to get her on my channel. I haven't
That'd be
heard back.
amazing. That'd be amazing.
I haven't
That's
heard back,
awesome.
but still, that would be amazing.
That's
Heck,
awesome.
I wouldn't mind seeing. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing a high-profile Republican wearing a scarf of mine.
That's awesome.
I might have to contain myself, you know, but still,
That's right.
um,
That's right. I
um,
love it. I love it. Well, I
uh,
realized we've gone over the 1 hour mark, and as the host, I want to be, conscious of your time and all that here. Any last thoughts, words of inspiration, anything that would, folks who have never crocheted before or knitted, is there anything that you would offer to somebody like me who is just like, I know very very little. How do you get started? What's something you've learned along the way that's like, man, if I could go back and tell myself this from the start, this would change everything for me.
do you know what? I mean, as much as I hate to give credit to a major corporate brand, just do it. Give
There
it a
you go.
try. Take a
That's right.
stab, um, and learn as much as you can. Make everything a learning experience,
Yeah.
and never, ever, ever expect perfection
Right.
because you're never gonna get it.
Right. Right.
Um, do you know, if I might make a metaphor, I don't even know if I've told this story before, or within this hour that we've been talking. Um, when I was working on my weight, someone counseled me to pay more attention to the kitchen scale than the bathroom scale.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So it's take the right actions and let
Mhm.
go of the results.
Boy,
And
that is
that
sound.
that that is that works in every area of life.
It does. It does.
Take the right
As
actions, or the best actions that you know of, and let go of the results.
That's right. That's right. That's fantastic. As we would say in the South, that'll preach. That's great. So
I'm not making you lose your religion, am I?
Oh, Mr. Browning, David, my brother, my friend, I love you. And this has been an absolute joy. I
It has
appreciate you
for
letting
me
me.
as
Well,
well.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And for everyone else, thank you for joining Monday Men. We will see you on the next episode, or Mr. Browning, David, the other David Browning, the great David Browning, the bearded one, shall see you next week. But thank you again for sharing your time with us. Have a wonderful week, and we'll catch up later.
And stick around when I click end broadcast. Okay, and I would just add, like, comment,
Oh,
share,
yes.
subscribe, all
Yes.
of that standard
Do you
YouTube
want me to
crap,
do that real quick?
if you like.
I'd be happy to. So,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Anyway, yeah, oh my gosh. This has
Well,
been
and
too much fun. We have to
this is
do it
great.
again.
It's too much fun. Like, comment, share. Please tell the world about this wonderful YouTube channel. Let's keep it going. Keep the art
Yeah,
form going,
exactly.
folks. Have a wonderful week. And David Browning will be back with you as host next time. And until the next time I see you all, be safe, be well, and crochet and knit your hearts out.
Exactly. Stick around and